Hello and welcome to today's Tech Talk called Office 365 Guard the Galaxy of Your Email Users. My name is Jennifer Lupiba. I'm the host for our Tech Talks today, but you won't really be hearing from me. You'll be hearing mostly from our expert that we have here, Susan Bradley. So we're going to be talking about business email compromise, and Susan is going to walk us through how to spot and defend against BEC attacks. These attacks are still happening. BEC attacks are pretty old attacks, but they're still happening. They're still very lucrative for cyber criminals, and certainly with Office 365, your email users are definitely at risk for falling prey to these types of attacks. In fact, just the other day, I read about a UK Premier League club targeted in a BEC scam, and this scam also targeted several others, and it was by a Nigerian Instagram star. He was posting lots of pictures about his lavish lifestyle. This attack against the soccer club and those other folks was about $435 million. Luckily, these were just schemes. The guy was living large. Like I said, he was documenting his luxury on Instagram. And when he was arrested in Dubai, he had $40.9 million in cash on him. So these are definitely still happening. And we're really lucky to have Susan Bradley here. She is a Microsoft MVP, and we'll walk us through that. I will give a little bit more detail about Susan here in the next couple slides. I do want to say that these Tech Talks are CPE eligible. So what I did in the past is I would ask people to send me an email. I'd send them an attendance receipt. Well, what I believe, I did some more research using your registration email that you received, plus the slides that I'll send out afterwards. You can use both of those, just the registration email and then the slides as proof of your attendance, and you submit that to, whatever accreditation that you seek, or submit it for continuing education that you need to maintain for your place of employment. These Tech Talks are hosted by Quest Software, but by no means do we do any of our product pitches in these Tech Talks. They're pure training in the spirit of the Experts Conference. And just to give a quick pitch here on the Experts Conference, so the Experts Conference, Tech Talks, all the same thing. The Tech Talk today is similar to what you would see at the Experts Conference. We were so hopeful for November 17th and 18th in Atlanta. Things were going down. Obviously, things are not right now. So we have made the prudent decision to take tech virtual. And since we're doing that, we also wanted to make it free for individuals. We usually charge for this conference. It is all training. It is CPE eligible. We bring in a lot of experts like Susan Bradley, David Kennedy from Trusted Sec. We have Microsoft folks like Chris McNulty, Pamela Dingle, Sean Metcalf and Riley Franklin Smith on the AD side, and lots of other Office 365 experts. And we decided to make it free. It's virtual. You can come and go as you please. You can jump between tracks as much as you want, and you can come back and watch all the recordings if you've missed it. We've got 3 tracks: Hybrid Active Directory Security, Office 365, and Migration and Modernization, which will also deal with a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So you can start to register for the Experts Conference at theexpertsconference.com. Go ahead and register for that. We are transitioning the site to talk about virtual. I think right now it might still say in person. You can just ignore that for the moment because we have made that decision here recently. We're in the process of getting those things changed over, but you can register for free. And then as we get closer, we'll be sending out all of the links to, where you need to go to be watching this. We will be using Teams to convey the conference, and we're working through a couple of different options to also have that face-to-face interaction with the speakers that past attendees of the Experts Conference have loved so much, being able to talk one-on-one or face-to-face, I should say, with these different experts. So go to theexpertsconference.com and feel free to register. It is free and it is virtual. Our next tech talk, and actually the last one we'll have until we actually have the Experts Conference in November, will be in a month, August 12th, and this is led by Adam Levithan. He's also a Microsoft MVP. He will be talking about how to migrate the rest of your files into Microsoft 365. So everybody rushed to enable 365. You probably ported over just the really important stuff. Now, what's that next wave of migration that you need to look at? So he will talk through the different options there, the different ways you might use the different content repositories that Office 365 offers. So introducing our speaker, Susan Bradley. I'm really excited to have her here. She is a Microsoft Security MVP. She writes for AskWoody.com and CSO Online. She's also known as the Patch Lady, and as an advocate for patch management, as we know, is extremely important. One of the things I love about Susan and working with her at last year's Tech and for this year's Tech is Susan works for a financial services firm in California, and she manages a fleet of business systems, including Office 365 servers, you know, all the devices that are connecting to it. So she's got that boots on the ground experience that I think is really valuable. To, you know, she's in your shoes right now, and she's living this. So I'll turn it over to Susan and let you have at it. Thank you, Susan, for being here.
Thank you. And I will take over, and if I've done it right, hold on. There we go. You should be seeing my screen now.
Yes, we do.
And as Jennifer said, yes, I do work for a financial services firm. We are on tax filing day, and when Jennifer reached out to me months ago and said, "Would you like to do a presentation on July 15th?" I said, "Sure." Obviously, months went by, COVID hit, the tax season got moved, and guess what? If you have not filed your tax return today, please do so, because when I get off of this presentation, I will be assisting in the e-filing of my office too, because everything electronic goes through me. So I'm the last person between you and the tax filing season. So without further ado, as Jennifer said, my name is Susan Bradley. I write for CSO Online as well as patches for AskWoody.com, but I'm also the administrator of the Microsoft 365 implementation here at my office. So I've experienced firsthand some of these phishing attacks, some of these ways that attackers want to come after us. And attackers are out to get you. It's getting harder to attack the operating system. We tend to look at Patch Tuesday and go, oh my gosh, you know, it was just yesterday. What bugs will occur? And there's usually a time, there's a point in time where you don't have to rush immediately, DNS bug of yesterday notwithstanding, and you can take some time to evaluate, to test the patches, and then deploy. The attackers can't come after you right immediately. It takes them time as well to learn what's in these vulnerabilities and come after us. Humans, however, are harder to patch. We have an innate want to help somebody. We are trained from birth to be nice to people. Right now, we've shifted to where most of us are working from home. So no longer do we have the interaction at the office where somebody says, hey, did you get that email? What's going on? We have a lot of communication coming out regarding COVID-19, and attackers know all this. So Office 365 and Microsoft 365, which is the suite of products, has become a key target for business email compromise. So how can you better protect yourself and your business from this? So as Jennifer said, is business email compromise a big thing? Absolutely. During the first couple of months from April to May of 2020, a 200% increase in business compromise. Think about that, 200%. They know that we have this squishy spot of the humans, and that's where they're coming after us. What is business email compromise? Basically, think of it as phishing, but with a very targeted idea, especially when you're you're invoicing and paying, attackers know that they can interact with that process and pretend to be someone trusted. So usually they want to steal money. They want to have you accidentally transfer money electronically to a different account than what you were intended. They want you to click on a link. There's all sorts of ways that they want you to take your money and give it to them, and you'll never see it again. Who gets hit? Even smart people do. You've heard in the news, I'm sure, of the Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank. She was scammed out of $400,000. Now, I love how she said I was upset at first, but remembered it was only money. $400,000 in my book is a lot of money, and I would be really upset no matter what. And especially I'd be upset that I didn't inform my end users, I didn't empower my people to say no, to stop and think, that somebody tricked my people. And my people are good people. So it reflects badly, I think, on me, and it reflects badly on the firm if we get tricked, especially since obviously we're a financial consulting firm. In a recent FBI document, they talked about 3 different ACH spoofs, specifically targeting construction contractors. In February 2020, Virginia County government made an ACH transfer over $250,000 after receiving a spoofed email. December 18, Virginia-based university made $470,000, again, supposedly from a legitimate construction company. October of 2017, the healthcare provider made 2 transfers totaling over $900,000 in response to spoofed emails. Again, this isn't new, but it's just shifted to be more targeted against the end user. And they know that we've got a little bit more squishy spots in Office 365 due to how we've moved to that platform and probably haven't taken the time to tighten it down as best as we can. So first off, the ways they trick us is they purportedly come in from a legitimate contractor and they say, hey, you know, I'm Joe Blow construction contractor. I need you to change the payment method or update that ACH information. It looks legit. The emails look okay. And of course, the person changes the transaction because, again, we've been plugged in from birth to be nice to people, to help people, to say, sure, no problem, I can do that, especially in business. There's a business attitude that, yes, sure, the customer's always right. I can help you do anything you want. How can I help you? So again, think of terms of turning that down a bit when talking to your users in your office. You need to watch and make sure and you educate your end users that emails often come with spelling and punctuation errors. They're getting better. Obviously, when they're doing these targets from overseas, they're starting to get more English dictionaries. But I still see so many times where it's so obvious that the email is wrong, things are misspelled, the English is a little off. Again, educate your users to be aware of these things. Just recently, in a July set on Microsoft, 62 different countries around the world were targeted with business email compromise attacks. 62 countries. So this is a worldwide impact. They're using a lot of Excel files, they're using a lot of OneDrive attachments, they're using things that look normal. So again, empower people not to be so helpful. So specifically for Office 365, if you're like me, you've probably within the last year to 2 years moved to Office 365 / Microsoft 365. And in the move to get off of on-premise Exchange and moving on to online email, you may not have taken the time to tighten it and to secure it. You can't just be, it's not, I'm going to say a radical statement. By default, Office 365 is not secure. You need to adjust it. You need to take additional steps. Number one, and you're going to hear me say this several times, so write this down in a big fat flow pen, turn on multi-factor authentication for all users. You don't have to have a physical token. You don't have to have a cell phone. You can set it up to do a office call. If you are concerned about people in kiosks, if you have a certain Azure license, I'll go into the details in a bit. You can set it up so that inside your static IP of your office, you're not prompted by two-factor, but outside you are. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a bit. So here's those multi-factor best practices that I want to talk about in particular. Most of you probably got an Office 365 license and that's it. And I'm here to say you need to mix and match your licenses. So in addition to whatever you bought on the base, there's a couple of additional licensing I want you to get. If you do not already have an Azure P1, or if you don't have a Microsoft 365 Business Pro plan, which now includes that, you can have the ability to whitelist the static IP of the office. This is really, really helpful if you have people that never go outside of the office. Now, granted, COVID-19, all of that is thrown out the window, but when we're back to a little bit more normal, and if there's certain people that only log into the office, or these days only remote into the office, never are on their own laptops, never are outside of the static IP of the office, you can set up what's called an Azure P1 license. You can whitelist the static IP of the office so that those people aren't bothered by a two-factor. This gives you the ability to say, hey, these people, I know they're going to kill me if they're hit with two-factor all the time, but I'm going to protect them a little bit more by still having two-factor just outside the office. In particular for phones, you'll see this on the phones. Your phones will get hit with the two-factor, your desktops won't. So what about remote users? If they have a laptop and they're VPNing in, yes, you're going to have two-factor. But if you set up with what's called RD Server or RD Gateway, so they use their home personal machine to log into a desktop at the office or an RD server at the office, you can set it up so that that whitelisting works. Again, this is an education process. I highly recommend screenshots, documentation, PDFs that you send them, step-by-step instructions. Grab other people's phones, like an iPhone and an Android phone, show the exact step-by-step instructions. It's a little bit tricky, but it's doable. The key is to education, to say, here's the windows that you should expect. Here's the applications to expect. You can use the Microsoft Authenticator app. You can use the Google Authenticator app. You can use a phone call callback. You can use a text message callback. And I'm sure you've heard in the news, oh, text messaging using phone isn't secure. It's secure enough. It raises you up from no longer being that low-level attackee, I should say. You're getting out of the low-hanging fruit. The attackers will go after somebody else because you're harder to get to. So any kind of two-factor at all, any kind of two-factor is better than no two-factor. So get yourselves out of that low level. There's a brand new thing called security defaults. You go into Azure, AD, properties, manage security defaults. And what these do in particular are doing two major things that will help immensely on getting you more secure. Number one is blocking legacy authentication. Attackers know that the older protocols such as SMTP, POP, IMAP are easy to just nail and guess passwords. Or these days they go to a password download site, some of the what they call the dump places, grab a whole bunch of old passwords, throw a password attack at a site, and 99% of the time there'll be some username and some password that gets you in the door. So anytime you can block those legacy authentication protocols that will allow the attacker to not go after you in those low-level stuff, the better off you are. So that's number one. You may have to do a little bit of research as to if everybody has phones that will work. My philosophy is if you have a phone that can't handle modern authentication, you need to tell that CEO, CIO, it's time to upgrade. You know, make money in the budget. Phones these days, to me, are part of our society. I wouldn't be, without one. So it's an investment that the firm needs to make. Absolutely get rid of those protocols. Require MFA multi-factor for all admins, especially global administrators. All administrator accounts must use multi-factor, no exceptions. You can set up what's called a break glass account. A break glass account means that this is an emergency only, it doesn't have MFA, but nobody ever logs in. For the day-to-day global administrator of Office 365, they absolutely should have multi-factor. No exceptions whatsoever. You can set it up also so that multi-factor for standard users, for your normal users, all accounts must register within 14 days, and or will only be prompted or challenged for MFA if it's a risky login attempt. It's how you want to set it up. And here again, here's the dashboard. You go into properties, and this is. I also recommend. I actually have a Microsoft 365 E5 license with a single user, one user. That's me, as you can see up there. And I use it for testing and seeing what the E5 license has. E5 is the most expensive, bells and whistles, all the security features. And by having a single one that I use for demo purposes and for testing, it lets me see what I'm missing out. Because then I go back to my normal one and go, where is that? I don't have that option in my subscription. Why don't I have that? And I realize, hey, do I need that? Do I want that subscription? And it allows me to say, hey, I really want that better feature, and I'll buy it for that risky person. And again, here's the enable security defaults. That is coming out brand new. That's the new. If you've had Office 365 for a while, this is the brand new thing from new tenants, but you can go back and enable this for anybody already on the existing platform. Security defaults also, accounts with credentials found on the dark web will be required to change passwords. They actually use a pwned password site and compare the passwords on your site to that site and say, hey, if something's been lost in a breach, somebody's reused the credentials, we're gonna check it, and we're gonna tell these people you got to change your password. Require multi-factor for service management. This may impact some of your third-party tools. You'll have to do some research on that. Again, these are the new defaults. You can adjust them accordingly. So again, I'm going to reinforce this. The legacy authentication is a key piece, because attackers can use credential attacks and come after you, and especially if you have POP and IMAP still on mailboxes. So you want to make sure that you change that authentication to only do modern authentication. Again, you can go, if you wonder if somebody's going to be impacted, like your boss, which would be a career limiting move, there's a report that you can set up, report usage. Click on the email app usage report, and it will let you know what devices are still using those legacy apps. You want to block sign-in for all shared mailboxes. In particular, in small business, we tend to do what's called shared mailboxes. And if you have sign-in ability on those shared mailboxes, it will allow the attackers to come after those as well. So watch that. You can use PowerShell to block it as well. You want to enable auditing. It kills me that Office 365, it's now starting to be more default. But for the longest time, when you turned on Office 365, auditing was not enabled by default. And it was like, why not? So double check, go into your protectionoffice.com, search audit log, make sure that's turned on. If it's not already, do so now. You want to make sure you turn on auditing policies. Again, keep in mind that if you have an ATP Plan 2 or Office 365 E5, there's different policies. And remember, you can mix and match. If you've got a risky person in your office that always clicks on something, or the CEO that's targeted, or his assistant, his administrative assistant, everything goes through her or him to go before the CEO. Remember, you can mix and match licenses, so you can have an E5, which has all the security goodness stuff for those risky people. Again, here's the audit log search. If you do not have this, if you don't see this screen, you want to turn that on. So review that that's there. You want to configure email authentication. You want to set up sender policy framework. If you're hosted at Office 365, it's a really easy thing to do on your DNS. If you haven't done that, check and make sure that you've done that. You want to configure Exchange Online Protection. If you don't have Exchange Online Protection, have something between you and the attackers. Some sort of filtering thing that scans the links, that scans the sites, that pre-scans the email. You want to make sure you have something. I am a fan of advanced threat protection, but bottom line, get something between you and the bad guys. It's not foolproof. Something always wiggles in, but it helps a lot to cut down those things that do come in. In the Security and Compliance Center, you want to navigate to Threat Management Policy to check to see if it's on. And again, different licenses have different options. So again, I recommend getting an E5 just to see what you're missing out on, and you can mix and match so different people can have different policies. Secure Score inside the Office 365 / Microsoft 365 is something called Secure Score. And when you first set up a subscription, you have a pretty low score. And then you can go through one by one and it says what needs to be done. Do you have MFA on? Yes or no? Do you have a policy to block legacy? Do you have a user sign-in policy? Do you have a sign-in risk policy? Go down one by one. It may take you some time. You know, if you have a spare moment when you're not doing, other things in your environment, take the time to go through this Secure course, because you'd be surprised how many things that you can easily turn on, not impact your users, and get yourself a lot more secure. You want to configure anti-spam and outbound spam, anti-malware, anti-phishing, and install the report message add-in for end users. That allows them to see the spoofs and things that come in. I also turn on, because I like to see this thing as an administrator, I turn on redirected malware reports. So I like to know my Office 365 is doing what it's supposed to. So I actually get, when there's malware and it's grabbing it and it's blocking it, I get those reports because I like to see it in action. I like to know where my money's going. So I turn those things on in my environment. You want to disable mailbox auto forwarding. This is so key for business email compromise. Because why? Because the attackers come in, they will, if they don't do it directly from a user, if they don't trick the user into changing things on their own, they can take over a workstation through any number of means, phishing email, and they can build rules, automatic email rules. When an email comes in from joeattacker.com, forward it to joeattacker.com so they don't know that I've taken over their system. And so what you want to do is you want to block auto forwarding so that there's much more approval process. There's a overt process that you have to go to if you ever set up a forwarding rule. I even set up alerts on systems so that if there's a forwarding rule in place for whatever reason, that when it's triggered, I get notified of it. So with auto forwarding turned on, attackers can come in, compromise the system, because they need to have the email in place to either reset passwords, get into a banking account, you name it. With these auto forwarding rules turned on, they can hide underneath the radar and do things through your email box without you knowing about it. So you want to make sure you check to see that there's no rules already set, and you want to block that proactively. You want to enable admin consent requests for apps. I consider this kind of like the new local admin-ish of cloud security. So what is this? Okay, so when you're in Office 365, there's a lot of places where you can enable apps, enable third-party cloud apps that will plug into a Microsoft 365 or Office 365 item. And an add-on for Teams, an add-on for Outlook, an add-on for this and that. And you as the administrator may not want people to add it. So I set up in my office that if somebody wants to go add something, and I set up a list of trusted apps that's okay. And then anything else I say, they're going to have to check with me first. So there's an approval admin process where when they go and they try to click on something and add it to their system, an email comes to me as the admin and says, hey, is it okay this person tries to install this, yes or no? And I can approve it or I can disapprove it. So make sure that you understand that people can add things to your infrastructure and you not realize it if you don't have this in place. And you go into user consent to apps and you uncheck that box where it says let user provide consent when apps request access to your organization's data. Again, think in terms of, do you really want somebody third party coming into your data without you knowing about it? And so I uncheck that box. Azure sign-in logs. So again, this is one of those, when I first got into Microsoft 365 and this was not default, I was like, oh my gosh, really? Now it is with a Microsoft 365 Business Plus account. This is built into that subscription, but if you don't have that in your subscription, I highly recommend that you add an Azure P1 license to it. What is this? It allows you to review who's signing into your account. This is very, very important. Early on, when I first set up Office 365, I did not have multi-factor initially. I was just setting it up, and literally within 30 minutes of me turning on Office 365, I already had people trying to log into various different user accounts on my network. And it was like, whoa, wait a sec, guys. Why are you from Mexico trying to log into my system? Why are you from Turkey trying to log into my system? I have nobody in those countries. What's going on? So you want to turn on this P1, and then you can see actually who's logging into your system. You can see what application is logging in, and it's so important to have this information. So if you don't have an Azure Active Directory user login, by all means, add a P1. It is so key to knowing who's coming into your network, who's trying to attack you. Message trace. Message trace can allow you to trace incoming and outgoing emails. It can be done through the Exchange Admin Center or through the Security and Compliance Center. And they're in the process of moving the message trace to a new place. Usually what I do, I'm terrible. Because I go in to Microsoft 365, some, but not 100% all the time. I'm not 100% all the time there. So many times I go, where is that? And then I have to Google up. So I've literally, my old brain, I've literally built shortcuts on the desktop for the URLs for certain locations that I go to on a regular basis. So message trace is one of those places where I go. The P1 licenses or P1 user login, I have a shortcut on my desktop. Whatever it takes for you, if you're a PowerShell person, have a folder full of PowerShell scripts that give you the same information. If you're a GUI person, have shortcuts to those places inside Microsoft 365 that give you the key information you need to track this. So have shortcuts, have PowerShell, but basically have locations that you know you can go to and get this key information. The new link for message trace is protection.office. The number sign message trace gives you default queries and custom queries that you can start on that. You want to review user permissions. You want to look under mail settings, mailbox permissions. Attackers can add rights to another mailbox to add persistence rules. Persistence is so key these days. When an attacker comes into an organization, they want to slither in, they want to come in through an email compromise, and they want to wait and sit there for a while and just kind of take inventory, see how everything's going, see if what kind of juicy stuff you have on your information on your network, and do some reconnaissance. They don't want to attack right away. They want to do it slowly, quietly, so that you don't know what's going on. That it kind of, in the background noise of your network, as chatty as it is, that it just kind of is under the radar. So you want to check mailbox delegation, and you want to check on rights to another mailbox. Those are two key things. And again, go into the person's mailbox. You can do these reports either through the GUI or through PowerShell. And you want to see if someone has full access and whatever delegation access they have there. Phantom users. You want to check for unused accounts in your organization. After the hack, the attacker may still have access to a user's mailbox. They may also have access to SharePoint or OneDrive. So you want to make sure, and this is also true for if you allow people to invite guests to your SharePoint or OneDrive location. Have a regular, like once a month, every 6 months, have a regular process where you go through and do an inventory of those users on your accounts and say, hey, who are these guest users? Do I still need them? Is it still active? When's the last time that person logged in? And if they haven't logged in a while, boot them off. And when somebody complains, you can put them back on. But you know, there comes a day where your job is to protect the network. It's not necessarily to be extremely nice to everybody in the network. Consider upgrading to Azure Active Directory P2. Risky users in particular can be upgraded to a P2 license. It changes from a 5-day of logs to a 30 days of logs. And in particular, because bad guys usually like to wait and hide and take time, it gives you the ability to better investigate. It also gives you the ability to do geo restrictions. I actually did this with one person in my office. He was going overseas, and when he came back, he was still getting some access from that location. I put on a P2, so I was blocking all logins from anything but the United States. So if you like the ability, if you're familiar with a firewall where you probably had a geo-blocking ability that said, hey, I don't want people from Kazakhstan, you know, no disrespect intended. I don't want people from you know, this location. I don't want people from that location. The P2 gives you that same ability, that a geographical restriction. And again, you can mix and match. So you can have, you know, your CEO who always gets attacks from other locations. He can be on a P2 and he can be geo-blocked for certain locations. You want to add verification for transfers. Now, this is where I step away from the technology and say, you know what? There's times when technology is wonderful, and there's times when go back to the old-fashioned human, especially right now with COVID-19, where we're all working from home, where we can't walk down the hallway and say, hey, Joan, did you mean for me to change that ACH transfer account? And she says, oh, no. You know, when we're so much relying on email and texting and Teams and all this stuff, stop. Don't use the technology. Put in place processes to say, hey, pick up an old-fashioned phone, call that person and say, when there's a transfer that involves more than X number of amounts, $20,000, $30,000, whatever is a huge amount of money in your neck of the woods, have that be actually approved the old-fashioned way with a phone call to another person. So have an agreed upon word or phrase. Have the bank be on the alert for scams as well. Contact your bank. They usually have processes in place, some sort of additional verification process that you can turn on, something that will slow the process down so the attackers can't come after you. Recommendations from the FBI. You want to verify the legitimacy of the ACH forms. You want to verify this with secondary methods. It gets back to calling old-fashioned, talking to the human. They note that the presence of a legitimate employee's name in an email account is not necessarily enough to verify the email's legitimacy. Again, empower those people that are handling funds to say, hey, if something doesn't seem right, stop. You don't have to be so helpful. It's okay. It's okay to be protective of our organization. I will love you to death if you slow down an email, if you stop and you stop a business email compromise. So don't be so helpful. Think of that. Key takeaways. Add multi-factor. Let me repeat that again. Add multi-factor. The single most thing you can do to help your Office 365 organization to not be attacked is to add multi-factor authentication. It's an education thing. Have some documentation, have education to your users, but so key to have multi-factor. You want to add a P1 to better manage logging and expose user logins to yourself. You want to mix and match those Microsoft 365 licenses. Have an E5, have an E3, have a kiosk license for those people that don't need it. Take the time right now with COVID-19 and budget crunches and things like that. Go through and reevaluate your licenses. Everybody doesn't have to have the same license. You can mix and match. They just have to make sure that you have only those people doing that thing. So the kiosk people can't have a desktop Office install, but mix and match those licenses to better secure you. There's 2 resources I highly recommend that you look at. Number one, for consultants, a gentleman, Alex Fields, runs a site called IT Pro Mentor, and he has a best practices checklist. Even if you aren't a consultant, even if you're just running your own firm, I highly recommend you go through those best practices checklist. The second organization is CIsecurity.org. They have a free Microsoft 365, Office 365 checklist. It goes through step by step and tells you what their recommendations are, what it will impact. It's a very, very comprehensive community-based checklist. You do have to sign up with their organization. You have to provide an email address in order to download it, but it is a free download. So I highly, highly recommend itpromentor.com and CIsecurity.org as 2 places that I go for resources. Again, I'm going to be a broken record. 2-factor authentication can be set up with the Microsoft Authenticator app, can be set up with the Google Authenticator app, can be set up with text messaging, can be set up with an Office callback. Anything that gets you out of that low-hanging fruit means the attackers go on to somebody else. If you can't do anything else, if you get people pushing back, at least have your administrators in your office have multi-factor. Start there. You know you can beat up on each other, your self-administrators, and get them on multi-factor. Have you do it first. If you're an administrator in the firm, do it first. Get all of your administrators on it, and then take the time to move it down, lower down to where everybody is on multi-factor. And with that, if anyone has any questions, I am open to questions. We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure I did have time for questions. So.
Yep, we have a question in already. So folks, you can put your questions in the Q&A, and we will read those aloud and then get those answered for you. So 2 questions came in. One, though, was specifically about the slides. Yes, we will make the slides available afterwards. I will send those out here shortly. They'll come from my email address, so just pay attention to that. We also put this recording on the expertsconference.com website, so you could go there. It'll probably take a couple days to get it up, only because I've got some folks out on vacation this week. So I'll read the question that we have here. Someone says, our configuration is VPN for company data and directed to Microsoft for Office 365. What suggestions can you provide to secure Office 365 without mandating access via VPN?
So it depends on how your organization is set up. I mean, here in my office, I don't do VPN. We do RD Gateway. I know other people that use Office 365 and they use the cloud services. So I have a good friend, and she's a consultant, Amy Babinchuk. I believe she's going to be speaking at the tech conference in November as well.
That's right.
And she has quite a few organizations that have gotten rid of Active Directory. And they have no domain, and their domain, and I put quotes around that, is Azure Active Directory, Microsoft 365. And so all of the data is up in, either it's in SharePoint or it's in the OneDrive, and that's how they've flipped their organization. And your next presentation at the Tech Talk is actually going to be talking about that. You know, after you've moved email to the cloud, what about the rest? So it's a big change. A lot of it has to do with where are your applications, your day-to-day business applications. A lot of mine still are on the desktop. That's changing. I can see in the next 5 years, it might even be sooner. One thing we've seen with COVID is COVID has dramatically increased the push to the cloud and the push to alternative ways to do our work. My thought process is, in the next 5 years, I'm probably not going to be able to buy desktop versions of what I'm using right now. My vendors will only do cloud versions. So it's a matter of, if you're in a business decision maker role, I have my decision I make now, and I have my 5 years down the road kind of view. My decision I'm making now, since obviously your line of business applications are currently on a VPN, you do what you have to do. I would suggest, if you haven't done so already, the split tunnel, where you still go back to your Office for the data, but if you're patching Office 365, you let that go to Microsoft Update on the local machine. What we mean by that is, for many, many years, the old-fashioned thought was everything should go back to the home office, data, patching, you name it, the whole pipe of the workstation from home should go back over the VPN. That puts a lot of data, a lot of traffic on that VPN. These days, the best practice recommendation is to split that. Your data goes over the VPN. Your Office 365 patching goes over the Microsoft Update pipeline. And there's, if you don't see, I don't have them in this presentation, but if you go just Google on split tunnel VPN for Office 365, you'll see a ton of Microsoft guidance on this. It is no longer seen as this horrible thing of security. We've realized today that with everyone being on the web, with so much of our internet being around us, it's no longer, you don't have to go back to the office to protect. You can put in place things on the workstation. You can put Defender, you can put endpoint protection on those home workstations to still protect them while they're doing the split tunnel. Going forward in the next 5 years, I would say, look at that plan going forward and say, hey, where are we going? Where's our applications going? Are they moving to the cloud? Are they getting to where the desktop is meaningless and all you have to have is some sort of device that gets to the web, and then your data is up there? So I'm not giving you an exact answer. I'm giving you a do the best you can for now. For now, I would say split tunnel. For the future, I'd say think about where you're going to be in 5 years. Is it going to be full cloud? Is your data going to be in Office 365 completely? And stay tuned until the next Tech Talk.
Excellent. I was able to capture, I think, most of what you said, at least the concepts of it, and put that also in the Q&A. So if you have any other questions, please put those in there now. Susan, one thing I'd like to comment on is I liked what you said about removing yourself from the low-hanging fruit for attackers by turning on two-factor or multi-factor authentication. You know, it seems like most criminal activity is because an opportunity was created.
Yes.
And you know, when you're turning on two-factor, you're removing that opportunity and making it much harder. I think there's a lot of truth to that. You know, from locking my doors on my car to turning on two-factor, I think it's the same concept for sure.
Literally, I'm going to bring in something off topic. Literally, just the other day in my city, we had a gang of about 10 individual youths walking down a city street, and with cars parked in the driveways, and literally just going down the street checking for open doors. And if they didn't find an open door, they walked on. And it was a little chilling to see, because people were getting these shots on Nest cameras and Ring cameras as 10 youths were walking down the street. And it's the same concept of the low-hanging fruit. If the door was open, they would have stopped and said, hey, I can probably do something. But because the doors were locked, they went down the street.
Excellent. One question I asked this to you last week when we synced up. Microsoft 365, or sorry, Teams, Microsoft Teams. Is there any opportunity for scamming to happen via Teams if you've got like Open Federation? Any opportunity for someone to reach out via Teams and pretend like they're a vendor?
Absolutely, and that's one of the recommendations. Goes Teams, OneDrive, all of those. You want to go back, you want to set a schedule where you go back through and look at guest users. Well, I should back up a little bit. First off, you want to decide if you want guest users. So that's your first decision. Some organizations don't want to have guest users. My firm, I do not have guest users in my teams. If I'm going to have teams, I'm going to have it outside of my firm organization so that there's no, you know, I can tell immediately if there's a scam or not. For other organizations, you can't do that. So what I'd recommend there is, again, set up a schedule where you review the guest access. You have a process where you approve the guest access. Who gets the right to invite people? Usually Teams and even SharePoint is set up pretty loosey-goosey, and there's a whole Google on this on SharePoint rules and SharePoint Federation and SharePoint governance is the word I'm looking for. There's a whole other conference. In fact, there were several presentations at the last Tech Talk about governance. And before you roll out technology, you want to take a step back and say, hey, do I really want to have this and this and this happen? So first step is governance. Do I want to have guest users? If I do want to have guest users, who gets the ability to invite those? Who makes the decisions? You probably don't want to have everyone in your organization have the ability to invite people. You want to have a process. You may even want to do a forms process. Forms is another Office 365 application. You can set up a custom form that gets filled out and be sent to somebody. So if you want to have a request process where person A has to request to person B that somebody be added, set up a form, set up a process. You know, things don't have to be done immediately. You can take time to vet somebody and check somebody.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Susan. I don't see any additional questions right now. I want to thank those folks for attending and for your time and attention. I will send out the slides afterwards, and then in a couple days, you can go to theexpertsconference.com and check out the recording as well. Really great points here, Susan, for protecting your Office 365. Thank you for your time and sharing your expertise with us. And good luck today on Tax Day.
I know, till midnight, yes.
Yes, good luck. Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody.